My girlfriend asked me to name all my sexual partners in order. I should probably have stopped when I got to her name. Today, I'm going to recap a 2007 crime thriller film called Fracture. The film begins with Ted Crawford, a wealthy Irish aeronautical engineer residing in Los Angeles, whose occupation involves identifying minute flaws in aviation systems. After revealing a basic defect to his colleague, Ted departs hastily without waiting for the algorithm's verification. The scene shifts to an adulterous couple, Lieutenant Rob and Jennifer Crawford, Ted's wife. Ted spots them, pulls over, and enters the property to witness his wife's infidelity. Later, as Jennifer arrives home, Ted unexpectedly appears. He tries to kiss her, but she declines and mentions starting dinner. He confronts her about the affair, and despite her apology, he shoots her in the head. Nearby gardeners hear the gunshot and investigate, only to be scared off by additional shots. Ted cleans the cartridges, washes himself, and burns his clothing. After the gardeners report the incident, the police, including hostage negotiator Lieutenant Rob, arrive. Rob calls Ted and enters the house, where Ted calmly admits to shooting his wife. Rob finds Jennifer's body and checks her pulse. Ted then points the gun at Rob, who wrestles the weapon away and assaults Ted until other officers intervene. Ted is arrested, and doctors discover Jennifer is still alive. We then meet Willy, a deputy district attorney. His colleagues inform him about Ted's attempted murder case, which Willy believes will be straightforward due to witnesses and Ted's confession. Willy decides to take the case immediately. At the preliminary hearing, Ted insists on representing himself, surprising both the judge and Willy. Despite their advice to accept a lawyer, Ted remains determined and requests a prompt trial with Willy as a prosecutor. That evening, Rob warns Willy about Ted's unusual behavior, but Willy remains confident in his victory due to the evidence and confessions. While flirting with his boss, Nikki Gardner, Willy receives a call from a colleague, revealing that the gun found at Ted's house was never fired. Furthermore, Ted never left the house that night, making it impossible to switch weapons. Willy revisits the crime scene, discovering the absence of gunpowder on Ted's body or hands, missing bullets from the cartridge, and a lack of fingerprints on the cartridges. He instructs a friend to continue searching the house for the weapon before departing. Back at his office, Willy receives a file containing case evidence, each sheet marked with the word "No" in red pen. He confronts Ted, who admits to hiring a private investigator to gather personal information on Willy. Ted jokingly invites Willy to become his defense attorney, but Willy refuses. Ted shares a childhood story about detecting flaws in 300 eggs as a lesson. Everything has weaknesses, and he claims to have discovered Willy's. During the trial, Willy questions witnesses while Ted remains silent, drawing blueprints. When Rob testifies that Ted confessed to killing his wife, Ted exposes the affair between Rob and Jennifer, providing evidence. An enraged Rob attacks Ted, resulting in a trial postponement. Later, Willy, Ted, and the judge discuss the case, with Ted presenting proof of Rob and Jennifer's motel rendezvous, obtained through his private investigator. Additionally, given that the lieutenant was present at the time of the confession, it might have influenced Ted to confess to killing his wife, solely to please the lieutenant. Consequently, the judge dismisses the confession and grants Willy a few days to gather more evidence, otherwise Ted could walk free. Later, Willy's boss reprimands him for losing the case, accusing him of being unfocused and unprepared, resulting in a poor performance. Willy attempts to explain that it's a ruse, but his boss remains firm. Willy then visits Nikki, discovering that she persuaded his boss not to fire him. He thanks her, and they spend the night together. Upon returning home, he receives a package containing an eggshell, which angers him. The next morning, he informs his boss of his intention to work on the case until the end. His boss advises him to resign since losing the case would jeopardize his position in both the new law firm and the current office. Nevertheless, Willy is determined to work on the case, believing that a person like Ted should be behind bars. He visits the police station, chastising his friend for not finding Ted's gun. His friend agrees to search the house one last time. He visits the now depressed lieutenant, whose wife and children have left him. Later, he goes to the motel where the lovers met and is promised the day's CCTV footage. Back at the office, he receives a taunting call from Ted. Willy visits Ted's house, finding that the police still haven't discovered the gun. Distraught, Willy visits the hospital, hoping Jennifer will awaken. A doctor informs him that it's highly unlikely, and even if she regains consciousness, she won't be able to speak or remember who shot her. Later, he is invited to Nikki's family home for dinner, where the case is discussed and Nikki's brother mocks Willy. Unaware that Willy has resumed working on the case, Nikki becomes furious when she finds out. Nikki argues with Willy for a while before leaving. Nikki's father, a judge, encourages Willy to fight for justice. That night, the lieutenant offers to plant false evidence, but Willy refuses. The following day, he obtains the CCTV footage, but Ted's hat prevents it from being admissible in court. Willy and the detective argue, as Willy believes the gun is still in the house, but the police can't find it. That night, Willy calls the lieutenant to accept his offer to present false evidence in court. The next day, he resorts to a ruse. During the trial, he will make a phone call, and his secretary will pretend to bring in new evidence. As the trial begins, Ted pushes for an acquittal, meaning no reasonable jury could find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Since this is legal, the judge asks Willy if he has any evidence to present. Willy is about to make the call, but realizes that Ted is too clever to fall for the trick. As a result, he claims to have no additional evidence, and Ted is released. Shortly after, a gunshot is heard. Willy rushes out to find the lieutenant has killed himself on the opposite side of the steps. Ted retrieves his gun and returns home. Willy stays at the hospital, hoping Jennifer will awaken. The next morning, Ted arrives at the hospital, and Willy fears he will kill Jennifer. Willy pleads with Nikki to help him, even though it's not her responsibility. She argues that he shouldn't be there and that she can't help him. He informs her that Ted is going to kill his wife, but she doesn't care. He goes back to his boss and learns that Ted has filed a restraining order against him for frequently visiting Jennifer's hospital room. His supervisor says that since Ted is a free man, Willy should stop. With no other option, Willy turns to Nikki's father, who signs an injunction allowing him to go to the hospital to protect Jennifer. However, by the time he arrives, Ted has already killed her. The next day, while cleaning the garage, Willy's boss approaches him and asks him to return to work, but Willy refuses out of shame. He feels guilty for letting a murderer walk free, but his employer counters that it was only an attempted murder. This sparks an idea in Willy. He resumes reviewing legal documents and examining the facts. He meets with his detective friend, and when they accidentally switch their identical phones, Willy receives Ted's taunting call. This realization leads Willy to visit Ted's home, where he uncovers all of Ted's deceptions. Willy learns that Ted bought a gun identical to the lieutenant's and went to the motel to swap the weapons. When the lieutenant found Jennifer on the ground, Ted switched the guns again. Ted knew the lieutenant would bring his gun to court, so he made the swap once more. Ted confirms Willy's suspicions with a smile, mocking the lieutenant for carrying the sought-after weapon during the trial. Ted claims that he used only one bullet and killed 2 rabbits. He states that even if Willy has evidence, he can't prosecute Ted because a person cannot be charged twice for the same crime. However, Willy explains that since Ted allowed Jennifer to die, he could retrieve the bullet from her skull, compare it with the one from the lieutenant's gun, and then charge Ted with first-degree murder, a new charge. The police arrive to arrest Ted. During the new trial, Willy stands alone, while Ted is surrounded by a team of highly paid defense lawyers. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy to hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice, just to be sure. It would be best if you watched the whole movie. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe for more videos like this.